Welcome to a special episode of Between the Sets. I am your host, Kyle. I'm here with one of our co-hosts, Donald.
What's going on, family? How we doing today? How we feeling?
How we doing? Today we got a special guest, Trent, Coach Trent, in the house today.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. This is a podcast that is dedicated to motivating, educating, and inspiring the next generation of athletes, middle-aged individuals, adults who are looking to better themselves, maybe even some more experienced individuals later in their life that are looking to take on new hobbies, new habits, and enter the world of fitness. Today, as I said, this is going to be a little bit of a special episode. Since we have Coach Trent here, we're going to be talking a little bit about some monthly relevant topics, along with some controversies that are happening in the sports world. But before we get into those latter two topics, we're just going to learn a little bit about Trent and spend a couple minutes, just talking about who you are, where you came from, how you ended up in this seat right here, in this gym, DRP Fitness and Health. So yeah.
And how many pancakes did you get while you were playing in college?
That's
the real question.
That's a good question. That's always my favorite. That's the touchdowns for offensive linemen. That's what I played in college. Just to tie back into that, what that means and how this all started for me. Listen, I'm from Palm Beach, born and raised. I come from a huge sports background. My dad played college basketball. My brother was a college athlete also, All-American at Kansas University, ran track.
Let's go. Go Birds.
My mother played volleyball. It's ingrained in us.
Yeah, you were really bred into this lifestyle.
So I
didn't know any of that. That's crazy. You didn't have a choice.
No choice. Came out of it, just kind of thinking that this was how life was, right? There was never any alcohol. There was no going out. There was none of that. It was strict forward. You wake up, you train. And I distinctly remember, I don't know, I was probably like 8 years old. My dad would get my oldest brother up, and he was doing travel track. And on that team was Devin Hester, Santonio Holmes, and some Hall of Fame guys.
Yes, big time.
Those are some dogs.
The Jet Hester.
Just absolutely. At the time, I didn't know. I just thought they were my brother's friends. And I didn't understand the buy-in that those guys had. And they would get up at 5 in the morning. They would go run the bridge. And I just kind of put it in my head. I was like, well, if they're doing it, that's eventually what I'm going to end up doing.
Yeah.
And fast forward, everything that was kind of pushed into my mind was definitely ingrained by the time I was, 8 years old. I knew that I was going to play football.
That's crazy.
And from that, man, it just kind of pushed forward. I always wanted to be on the field. I always wanted to go play. I wanted to be better than my brothers. It was always about who had the most awards, who could be the best at everything. I didn't care if it was in the neighborhood. I was going to be the biggest, fastest, strongest, and that was always my kind of mentality.
Hell yeah.
But how that all ties in and going through the whole 9 yards, because I know most athletes are extremely competitive. And for me, it was not about everyone knowing who I was. It was always with the dream and aspirations of taking care of my family, particularly my mother. And how it all kind of played a role for me and how I got to this role and now motivating young kids and other college guys that are in this space now, it goes back to what was the path? How did I do it? What was the mindset?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, honestly, it wasn't easy to first start.
Nope.
It was extremely difficult when I was younger because I was always bigger, right? And Donald and I always talk about this. When you're bigger, you're always taught, don't play so hard, right? You're bigger than them. Hold back. And for the longest bit, I kind of thought that, okay, if I do the same things that everyone else was doing, it's going to be a difficult life. And when I found out that you could play football and you were rewarded for those actions, it was all on, right? For me, I was like, money's on the line now, let's go.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think I was 12 years old, and I would go on YouTube, and I would watch on YouTube, I would watch the hardest hits of football. I'm sure you guys seen all those videos.
Absolutely.
The videos, R.I.P. my man Larry Allen. That's where I got my number from. Number 73
Really?
was
A legend.
Legend, absolute legend. There's videos of this guy benching 700 pounds, running
Okay, yeah,
4.8,
makes sense.
4.9, whatever he ran, 300 and some pounds. I was just like, that's gonna be me.
I could see why you look up to him.
Yeah, I was just like, this guy's crazy. And
So I wanna slow down and take a bit of a step back here and just get down to tell us about what sports, because
Yeah.
you come from a crazy sports family background, a
Yeah.
little bit of everything. I know you mentioned that you played lineman in football.
Yep.
For those of you at home, obviously we don't have video right now. Trent is a very large human, so it makes sense. But yeah, what sports did you play?
Yeah, sports
throughout?
I played. So that's a great question. You know, I played everything. I played, coming up from football. Then I tapped into lacrosse for a little bit.
Really?
That's
That's
dangerous.
terrifying.
I wrestled for 3 years. I threw shot put, discus, state champion. So everything that I kind of did was always more in the physical aspect. It was
Yeah.
always more like, how can I put my hands on you type of sports besides, even with throwing. I was all about how far can you throw this metal object. And just kind of going and how it all kind of played a role, right? How did I get put? How was I, like lacrosse, right? I didn't even know what the sport was. I came from a public school. I came in and I saw all my friends playing it. And all I saw was like, why do they just throw the ball to each other? Why don't they just go take it? And that's all I kept thinking to myself. I was like, why are they waving their stick in front of the guy when you just go run through them? And
It's a very football mentality.
and at the time, I remember sitting there, I was watching the game, and then I was actually introduced to the game by Nick O'Leary. I was
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was underclassman, and I just got to the schools in middle school, and I asked Nick, and I was like, "What is this?" I didn't know what the sport was or anything, and he was like, "Oh, it's lacrosse. You get the ball and you throw it really hard and you score." And I was like, "All right."
Sounds fun.
And
Yeah,
so
I played with Nico there. I was like, yeah, you're pretty much the same guy. Like he just runs through people.
exactly.
He didn't pass nothing. He just ran through.
Just ran through, and that's a good point. Is like I remember when I watched Nick play, it was literally what I thought.
Yeah.
It was literally just, and a matter of fact, he would put his thumb on the ball because he couldn't cradle that good yet. He would just run people over, and they didn't say anything to him because Nick was like 6'3" in middle
Yeah.
school, so like, it was.
You guys were the worst people to play against. 'Cause as me being a lacrosse player, that was my primary sport. There was always the football kids that you'd just be terrified of them running at
Just
them.
know you're gonna be sore for the next few
you know
days.
that they don't have the technical aspect down, and what they lack in that field, they make up for in the physical aspect, and they're just coming for your head.
Yeah.
Obviously, now you are a coach. You're working here at DRP Fitness and Health.
Yep.
But you're very active in the high school sports community overall in general. So tell us like a little bit about just kind of what you're doing now and what that looks like.
So to tie it all in, so fast forward, I got out of here. Obviously, as you guys know, I went into Benjamin and got out of there and went and I played at FIU, went to Mario Cristobal, my guy. He's at Miami now.
Yeah.
And that was a transition that I don't think anyone's prepared for. I don't think there's a 17-year-old, 18-year-old that's prepared to go and instantly become a man. And I'm not talking over a year. I'm talking in a matter of, like the guys we just shipped off, June 18th, June 13th, whatever it is, that summer A that you get sent there, that transition and going to essentially what I call modern day kind of gladiator training. You
It's
eat,
crazy.
sleep, and train and try to craft your body to be a weapon.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I was already in that mentality. I prepared my whole life kind of thinking this is what I was going to do. But I did not understand the sacrifices that you're going to make in all the other elements of your life. You're not going to talk to your family as much.
Yeah.
The whole dreams and aspirations, call it what they want to say as a student athlete. It's more like, depending on what you're trying to do, it's more an athlete student, particularly if you came with the intentions that I came. I didn't go to college to play football to just play. I went to there to try to make it to the NFL. And how that all kind of like pushes back into the mentality of what I push out now is all from experience, through the injuries, through the playing in front of the 70,000 people, through giving up a sack, or the first time I ever gave up a sack and think it was the end of the world. Being that kind of ultimate competitor and thinking that no one can beat me is it was one of the most challenging things I had to deal with when I actually did lose reps. And particularly with most guys that come out of high school, they don't ever lose reps. When you're a top guy, you just don't lose. And when you get to a higher and higher level, closer to that tip of that pyramid, you start understanding that you have weaknesses. And what makes you different is if you go and change and you harness those weaknesses and make them strengths, you know? And how that all got me back into the role of coaching is I went that route. As many guys will tell you, I'm sure Donald will tell you, the injuries and getting that close to being broken, not physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
Because you can handle, you've trained your body to handle anything. I've done 4 surgeries, never stopped.
Yeah.
Never thought I wasn't going to come back bigger and stronger. But mentally, when that happens, you lose a bit of your edge each time.
Yeah.
And my job now is to push individuals to push individuals so that when that does happen, so till they can handle that, right? So they can handle the wear and tear. I don't care if you're 8 years old or you're 80 years old. In this lifetime, you will go through an injury.
Absolutely.
You will want to quit. You will deal with that mental challenge of, dang, is this for me? Can I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And almost even to the point where I don't care if you're preparing to go play in the national championship or the Super Bowl, or if you're preparing to go to the gym at 5:40 in the morning before work. Both of them take a mental toll on you to do it over and over when the process works and then doesn't work.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to be having you back at some point for an episode in the future to talk about the mental aspect of injuries, because I only know a little bit about what you've been through on that regard. I see your mentality here on a day-to-day basis and how that transmits to our clients. So those of you at home, hit that subscribe button, by the way, so you don't miss future episodes with Coach Trent here. You're transmitting that mentality to the next generation, to, you know, people who are adults, and even like you said, like we have older clients that are in here that are trying to retain that healthy lifestyle and prevent themselves from getting injured, because when you're older, obviously you're a little bit more fragile and more prone to injuries, even if you're not on the football field. But right now you are very active in high school football, high school track. I don't know if we want to shout these guys out, but the Benjamin School, under your tutelage, the girls track team, I believe, won a state championship.
It was actually the boys.
The boys.
Yeah,
My
the boys
apologies.
won the state championship. The girls did very well. I think they were top 5, and
There we go.
Some very good athletes there too. Now, I want to tell you something about this. This is a program. I give all the accolades to my brother. I just kind of came in and gave what I could give and value.
Shout out to Barrett.
Got a shout out to Barrett. You know, that program. I'm going to tell you this is 5 years ago. Let's talk about this. 5 years ago, that track program probably had maybe 12 kids on it, and never won anything. There were individuals that came out of there that won themselves.
I can see that.
And like I remember distinctly when I was in that position, I remember going and driving to Tallahassee. I was by myself. It was me. I was the Benjamin School. So I still got up there. I scored.
Coach Trent is the Benjamin School. You heard it here first.
You hear him.
Got my
You hear
points.
him.
I got 18 points. I went up there. I battled. You know, I took them all on. You know? And so, but with that, you know, that's what it kind of encompasses to be a coach. I'll give you this example. Jackson Hamilton, probably one of my best offensive linemen. In my head, I met this kid. I'm going to turn him into a beast. He's going to be the best goddamn center there is in all of America. And he went in and he trained, and he was becoming the best center in all of America. I mean, the kid's every bit of almost 6'4", and he was the first thing that told me that he was going to be a freak athlete is when I had them doing plyometric drills, and he jumped from the free throw line and hung on the rim. And he looked at me, and everyone else looked at each other. He's like, did he just do that? Now this kid's almost 290 pounds. And we're looking around, and we're like, no. I was like, Jack, do that again. And he did it again. I said, do it again. He did it again. And he did it again. Now, this kind of goes back to old school kind of Miami, you know, Warren Sapp, a legend. Defensive tackle, was a legend. Guy was doing the same thing. That's what ultimately got him his offer. He was dunking a basketball, and he was only 6'1", 6'2", at 330 pounds. And
Oh my gosh.
so I saw, I was like, man, this guy, he should be Project Warren Sapp. And I was like, all right. And so then I grabbed Jack and I said, Jack, what offers do you have? He's like, I don't have any, coach. And I was like, okay, all right, well, we're going to change that. And then I grabbed him and a few other guys, Chase Malamala, Landon. I got some of these guys, and I said, you're going to train like you have never trained before. You're going to want to quit. And I promise you, I will turn you into a beast. And each and every one of those individuals bought in. I had those guys for a year, and they became spectacular in all their own regards. And the reason why I bring Jack up is Jack's route was originally football. And we went out to that track, and he was doing discus and shot put. And I was like, well, I threw two. I had all the records here. Why not? I'm going to give you to the value of what I got, and I'm going to push you. I'm going to see what I can get out of this kid. I'm going to see if he can break my records. And it wasn't by him just like, oh, man, he's big and strong. It was Jack refused to stop going. I remember going, and the first thing going out there, he was out there already. He was just ready to go, training, throwing, lifting, testing me. They were all testing me, calling me. What do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? When you see the hunger in people like that, you're like, okay.
Yeah, that's potential right there.
Potential
it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. If you have that mindset, you're going to be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's get it to him. It went slowly over time after this last summer. Literally at this point last year, I was like, Jack's gonna be my best, one of my best linemen. And we went into the season knowing that, okay, these are our guys. These guys put in the training, and ultimately, it's kind of funny. Jack had a shoulder injury, and he was like, okay, well, let's redirect and let's focus more on throwing. And I was like, okay, I really want you out here, but we did all this training. We're going to use it for something, right? And this kind of ties into the role of like why I got to the role I'm in coaching is I was like, you know what, Jack? If this is what you're going to do, let's push you to a program that's going to allow you to do it to your best. I gave Jack, I switched his whole program. I gave him a plyometric, Olympic-type program, a program essentially like an Olympic weightlifter, right? Because he had to develop that different pattern of training. And he took that coaching, he took the training, and he ended up having his best season ever. And I don't know if you follow Jackson Hamilton, but Jackson's gone viral three or four times now.
His name sounds familiar for sure. And
he's gone viral. Yeah. He is a monster.
He's every bit. I got a nickname for him. I call him my 90s guys because guys in the 90s only knew one thing, and that was work, lift heavier, run faster. And that's who he is. He is he was just a 90s kid that's in this era. And if there's one thing I want to say, the meaning of a coach is not to push someone in one direction, but is to push them in the best direction for them at that time in that place.
Yeah.
And a year ago, I'm telling you that he's a college center, but now I'm telling you he's gonna be an Olympian.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that.
Let's go.
That is good. We love it.
Obviously, we're talking a lot about high school athletes right now. You are predominantly in the realm of producing high school athletes that are going to go on to be better, be great, and the mentality that it takes. This past week, the FHSAA, which stands for the Florida High School Athletic Association, for those of you at home who don't know acronyms, announced that high schoolers are now able to profit off of name, image, and likeness deals. So I want to get into, obviously that's been something that's happened in Texas, Georgia, so Florida is not the first one, especially that has been introduced to the college world within the past couple of years, rather historically, and it's changed the game completely. Well, before we get into your thoughts on that, let's kind of just explain what that means on a quite literal and objective level for high school athletes and what they're able to do with that right now. I am less well-versed in this topic, so I know you guys are the high school coaches, so I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
It's fairly new, so to speak, and it started in college, and I know Coach Trent has a lot of information about this, and I think what most people have to understand is since college, players like Tim Tebow and Johnny Football, when they've made so much, money for the school and they've built their actual brand. I remember going to an actual or watching a game and you seen Johnny Football T-shirts on everybody. And then you think about some players like Tim Tebow and who they became and winning the Heisman, how much of a brand they built. I think they just created almost like a funnel to say like, hey, I'm building something outside. I built something outside of me just playing football. I built a brand. So now they want to be compensated, for those types of benefits and for building those brands. So with it coming to high school, I think it's one of those things where we have, my whole opinion on it is it's so tricky, man. Like, because we're talking about you just standing on one of those like balance beams where it can go good in one direction, but you can drop off a cliff on the other side of that sucker. Just because, what happens to the mentality of a lot of these players, what happens to the team. And in the state of Florida, I don't know if, a lot of people are familiar with it. You can transfer and not have to sit out. And a lot of states don't have that. I think Florida is one of the only states that you can transfer, go to another school, and it can even be, in your same conference or your division. So, that's one thing to keep in mind. The actual quarterback who, I forgot his name, but he committed to University of Florida for a NIL deal, and it went wrong.
Jalen Rashada.
Yeah, Jalen Rashada. He's actually he's suing. He transferred to the University of Georgia, and now he's suing University of Florida. But just to even the whole point of suing is crazy. But the fact that you say he's in a SEC competition playing against a school that's not only in the SEC but a rival, and he's also suing another SEC school while he's actively playing. Like, it is unbelievable. And like from what is going and over the next 3 to 5 years, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of development to really orchestrate. Orchestrate like how it can go so it doesn't, go out of whack. But these top players now, it's becoming, you want me to transfer? Well, for how much?
Yeah. And it's crazy in and of itself just how much has changed. Obviously, both of you played college football at the highest Division I level. But what was it, like 5 years ago even, you couldn't even transfer to the same conference. And still, I don't even know if you could transfer to the same conference, period.
No, when I left University of Kentucky, I couldn't transfer to any school in the same conference, but any school that they were playing within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to transfer to a Division II school that turned D1 before I got there. So if I would have transferred to another D1 school, I would have had to sit out a year.
Yeah.
I can't remember when they changed that rule.
Which is crazy.
I think that may have changed 2017 because that was a big reason. I was actually going to transfer to USF from FIU after Cristobal had left, and you can't do that, right? Because you can't sacrifice a year because you have 4 finite years that you got to prove that you're worth it to make it. So you're not going to sacrifice
a limited time.
You got to have that film. So it was almost punishing to where if you got there and the coach would leave and you're stuck in a circumstance where, man, either I sacrifice a year of my time when football years is dog years. It's like 7 years for one football year. So that's that. Yeah,
it is extremely tough. So like for you, Trent, what's you being a high school coach, a former high school athlete, you seeing the likeness and what's going like what's your opinion about it from just a mental standpoint? What can happen to these kids and then moving forward.
Well, I think where this all comes a part of the digital era, right? Technology rules the world right now, and this is all a part of it. Before there wasn't a platform for individuals to get this kind of voice, and I think what's happened with NIL is it was a sleeping giant. Everyone kind of saw the writing on the walls, and when the NCAA from that realm was, hey, are you playing to actually go to school for a scholarship, or are you working for a scholarship? Because those hours, the amount of damage you do to your body, the amount of surgeries, the amount of all the stuff that comes out to it, the medications and everything that goes through it, most scholarships, I'll say this as an average, most scholarships are worth around $40,000, $50,000 a year, maybe. I mean, in that sense of paying for school comparing to a normal student. You're putting much more. Most athletes, majority of athletes, especially at Division I level, that's a fraction of the time they're going 10 and 11-hour days and trying to, be the best players they can for the institution, so the institution could be a national brand. And so you kind of umbrella that down and you take it from college and you bring it now to high school. Now, we all know that if, like you were saying, Donald, if Tim Tebow was playing football in high school during NIL, Tim Tebow probably would have never needed to even play high school. I mean, play after college. He'd been a made
out of
man.
the bowl school. He was very popular especially in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of turned that belt over to Pahokee. I turned that belt over to Glade Central. I turned it out to, and I talk about this in that regard. If those guys had the platform that is now available, it would just be a social norm. I think what's just kind of the big shocking thing right now is it's this new unregulated thing, and I compare it to a Facebook, right? When Facebook first started, and it's a new technology, it's a new way a new platform. The caveat in all of it though is the intentions of the game, right? I think for me in particular, football wasn't ever about just let's get this money, let's go try to just buy a big house. Football was about becoming a man. It was about that diversity of going through things that were very hard and learning a discipline that, most people don't get. And that's why you do team sports in general. So I think what NIL does to the game in high school for all sports, it puts another chip on the table, right? But the most important thing with it that I think is that it gives an opportunity for the guys who won't make it to the highest level at the pro levels to learn a business, learn your business, how to become a business. Because in this era, you have to know how to sell yourself. You have to know how to conduct and learn mannerisms when you speak on media, when you speak to people, job interviews, run a business, be a part of teams. And it teaches them another skill set that I think that will be very valuable for what I call the fastest growing era of humanity right now.
It's crazy how much has changed. I mean, obviously we just talked about it, but it's truly wild, like how the game and the money involved has changed just over the past 5 years. And I think one of the more difficult questions, and obviously it's a very nuanced and dynamic situation anytime you involve money into anything, but it's a double-edged sword. So you have, these kids, these young athletes who are busting their butt quite literally on a day-to-day basis, risking life and limb to put their body on the line for a game, that are now able to profit off of that. But on the other hand, anytime you allow a situation like that, there are going to be other individuals, whether it be agents, companies, third parties, who also want to profit off of the sacrifices of these young kids. So I guess the question would be for you guys is, do you have any advice to a young high schooler or things to look out for to ensure that they're not being manipulated so that, someone else can make money off of their own efforts, if that makes sense? You know what I'm saying? Because you have a lot of, agents out there. I mean, especially in the professional sports world, everyone's seen, Entourage, which is a little bit different, or what's the one with The Rock that's like Entourage, but for athletes? Ballers. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big business, and it's a cutthroat world. It's like any business. It's dog eat dog out there.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for these young kids that are entering into this new era of things to look out for, ways that they can protect themselves and their own interests financially and not get screwed over by someone who's trying to make money off of them?
I think that's what the scary part is. Because you mentioned a TV show like Ballers. Ballers is one of, my favorite TV shows because the actual realness that you get from it. But I think that's what that's what becomes hard, because you're talking about older kids, college, maybe, getting into the ages of 20, 21, or the pro players, or, they're becoming pro and you have to deal with a lot of these businesses. But now you bring it back down to kids that are 15 to 17. Now you're like, okay, these kids don't have no clue
Yeah.
like how to deal with a lot of these situations. Everything sounds good. And, I'm sure Trent knows, when you talk to agents, and we both have talked to agents, trying to get ready for, NFL careers or prepping for NFL careers, they all sound great. Like, there's not that one guy that's like, oh, I caught you. Like, they're trained to sound and to make it seem like they're there to help you. And some are. Like, I'm not trying to take that away,
Right.
but it's all for, their goods and services. They're trying to get something out of it. So everything sounds phenomenal and great to you. And what I have a fear for is with a lot of these kids, now you look at some parents who they may be saying, hey, look, I want you to go to this school because they're going to pay more. But that kid can be like, hey, I don't want to go. I'm not there for the money. I'm just there for the love of football. But then you're sitting there saying, like, what are we teaching these kids if that's the thing? Like, go where the money is. And it's like, now what me and Trent may have gone through was we picked a school that we wanted to go for the tradition, the dynasty, the building of men. You go to a lot of these schools like a Nick Saban, he's building men. And it's not just football players. It's what's happening after, you play football. He's building a relationship. He's taking that father road to build that. But now with a lot of this NIL stuff, my opinion for them is, now they have to do the research. Now you have the internet and kind of what you said, the social media, and now you just have to study. You have to learn. You not only have to pay attention for your academics, but you now have to understand how to build your brand, so to speak. Especially if you're some of those top players in the country, you have to know the ins and out. And you hate to say it, but you got to watch everybody, even the people that's closest to you. Now you got to understand and study them, and you got to figure out, are you really doing what's best for me or what's best for you?
Yeah,
and
or are you just trying to make a buck off
You're just trying to make a buck off of me.
Yeah.
Whether you're an agent, whether your mom, dad, sister, brother, like now I have to watch and it makes it almost like you're alone, or you have that big fear to say, all right, who do I trust? I trust no one. You hate to put that mentality into them, but you got to watch everybody. So that'd be my thing to tell a young kid, watch everyone. Even me, if I'm talking to you, watch me. What do I get out of it? Watch everyone.
Almost like continuously ask yourself, is this person, whether it be a friend, an agent, a coach, are they looking out for me, or are they looking out for their wallet?
Exactly.
Yeah, and to jump in off of that, Donald, it's all about education. We live in the education era. I don't know if you guys remember, there used to be an old scam that was an email. You get an email. It was like, I'm an African prince. And I need
The Nigerian prince.
Unfortunately, those people have seeped from the internet and they've become your reality. And that's what you have in this circumstance now, right? With a lot of people around. I don't care if it's your uncle or your coach. You got to see who's trying to give you that pyrite, that fake gold. And in this era right now, you really, really, really have to educate yourself. And that education comes from a financial literacy point, right? If there was something that, which will probably happen, NIL for high school guys needs to be a class. It needs to be, how do I do this? What is my brand? What is a contract? What do I do? How do I learn about this? And it's the only way to protect themselves instead of, kind of just being told what to do. And like Donald said, the difference between a car salesman and an agent a lot of times is the haircut. And I
love how you just came off the dome with that.
You're spitting a lot of wisdom out here. A lot of Nigerian princes, a lot of good haircuts.
Because when you go through it, you just you feel for these guys. I mean, you know how many people are trying to take advantage of something just because they don't know, and it's a tough situation. And the only thing you can do, like I think most things, whether you get a terminal illness, whether you have an injury, is you sit down and you find the education, you find the book, you watch your videos, you do your due diligence, you take your notes, and you put together a thesis, and then you test that thesis of, if I do this and this and this, then what happens? And it's got to be the same way with people. And the earlier on you teach these guys this, the less they'll be taken advantage of. And let me tell you this, guys, you will be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
It's not the revenge that will get you further. It's what you'll learn from it, and that's going to be in every and anything in this life, whether you're dealing with a contractor or not. And that's all that's happened. It's just another space.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is a great life lesson. You know, the unfortunate fact of life. You know, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a really smart kid, whether you're a kid who likes to play video games, you're going to grow up into a world that is unfortunately going to try its best to take advantage of you, especially if you're going into any sort of business. I guess another question that I have is kind of taking a step back a little bit and thinking about why the FHSAA decided to make this decision and put this into effect. Do you think that they are looking out for the interest of young athletes, or do you think that they are looking out for the interests of themselves or others who are looking to profit off of these young athletes? And I know that is a very real and tough question, but I guess just blankly, like, why do you think that they made this decision?
I think because it grows the industry as a whole. You know, I think with companies like that, now you start to work with other, and these would be connections and deals that would be made behind doors that we will never know about, probably won't hear about it until later. But it could be connections between, okay, if we want to bring certain industries, Nike, Adidas, or, you know, any of these small businesses that want to make these connections, you know, now we give you a platform to do so, but maybe we're making a cut off of these platforms. I mean, those deals are done all the time, and I think now, kind of what Trent said, the digital world is going out there. So now we have a brand or televised. We got televised 7-on-7s now. Yep. So I mean, they're on ESPN. They're on all these different shows. They're on all these streaming platforms. So what does that do to a brand? Not only the athletes, but then you also have, you know, a lot of these industries that's like, hey, look, now we can host events. You know, team events, 7-on-7s. Everything is now a deal to be done, using schools, athletes, you know, likenesses, image, all that kind of comes together. So I think it's just building on the digital world and actually the streaming platforms that's happening now. Like, everything is about, you know, making money. Yeah. So I don't think it's a bad thing to say, you know, they're using these players, but I mean, and it goes to say they use you, you use them. I mean, it's just that simple. You just got to play the game. This is the game that's happening. You just have to learn how to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the jump off what Donald's saying is the industry the industry will follow suit. You know, it doesn't just rain in Georgia. It doesn't just rain in California. It rains everywhere. Rain comes everywhere. And everybody better figure out a way to get an umbrella, because it's gonna rain here. So either you're with it or you're against it. And if you go against it, you'll get crushed. Because if I'm a Florida kid, I'm a top athlete, and they're in Georgia and they're doing this, and Texas, I'm saying, Mom, Dad, shoot, find me a way. I'm gonna go live in Georgia because I got to figure out a way to get this NIL. And if you're Florida, arguably, I think Florida has the best athletes, and we've had this discussion in the gym here. Florida has the best athletes in all of the United States of America.
100%.
Why would you not? If you're the FHSAA, you have to capitalize on what you have in the position that you can strike and present that, hey, listen, watch us. Watch what Florida guys do. Watch what Florida kids do, and watch how different our athletics are.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, this will continue to grow that level of athleticism that we have here in Florida. You know, hopefully we'll get some kids from Nebraska, from Iowa, some all-star high school athletes that want to come down here and live the dream and make some money and help their parents, you know, get some money in the process and, you know, go on and do great things and represent the old great state of Florida. So it is very exciting in that realm. And one of you guys said earlier that there needs to be classes on how to navigate, you know, these NIL deals and these agents and these people that are going to be, you know, trying to throw money at these kids and try to make money off them. And I do hope that happens. I think that if there's any message that I want to put out just to the universe, please, for the love of whoever you believe in, give these kids the resources to educate themselves and be able to make informed decisions about what's best for them financially and athletically speaking. For those of you at home listening, please don't, you know, look, if it looks too good to be true, if it tastes too good to be true, if it smells too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. So do your due diligence for those high schoolers out there. Do your research. Make informed decisions about what you're doing with your money and the people that you have in your life and the people that you are dealing with. Surround yourself with great people, with people of integrity, for people who are there for you to the best of your ability, and you will be okay. Is the message that I think that I'm getting from the both of you. Yeah. Do you guys have any kind of closing remarks along those lines for young athletes out there, or businesses out there, or maybe even directly towards the Florida High School Athletic Association?
My main thing is just don't lose yourself. Don't lose yourself. Understand why you started playing the game, why you want to play the game, what you believed in. Everybody, had that idea of I'm sure they were in their backyard playing their sport thinking like, this is it, this is touchdown. You got the countdown coming down and you're playing for the love of it. So just don't lose yourself when you start getting involved with the money and the likeness, because you can go down a path that you won't like, and you'll start to understand that this game is more politics than it is play, and for fun.
Enjoy the process. Yeah.
100%. And the last marks I kind of have with that, what Donald's saying is, guys, just become the best player that you can become, right? If at the end of the day, everything else will handle itself. I watched Donald with the running backs, and those guys, there's nothing there but 100-degree sun and turf.
Yeah.
And they work their asses off. That's it.
Yeah. So, again, to just piggyback on that and hammer it into y'all's heads at home, don't lose that love of the game. Remember, enjoy the process. Don't chase the money. Chase the work, and the money will follow. And that's all we got, guys. That's a special episode of Between the Sets here at DRP Fitness and Health. Coach Trent, thank you so much for coming on. Again, we're definitely going to be having you on again to dive a little bit deeper into that mentality and those injuries that you've experienced, because we obviously know that you have a lot of very wise and caring things to say to these young kids, and we want to get more of that out there. So truly, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Remember, guys, it's all a mentality. The body's crafted by the mind, and surround yourself with people that think that way, not the people that have a reason not to, but a reason why to. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And clients, this is his quiet voice, so I'm sure you're surprised listening and saying, "Wow, Trent is very quiet right now." Yeah. That's only for this. You'll hear that upside of it. Don't worry.
Yeah. For those of you at home that want to hear more content like this, that want to be a part of the DRP experience, maybe you're one of our clients, maybe you're not, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, especially for when we have Coach Trent on again to impart some more wisdom upon all of you. If you like what we had to say, go ahead, hit that like button, give us a thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns on the whole NIL issue, if you have questions for Trent and his background, if you have anything to say at all, even if you just want to tell us how your day is going, go ahead and drop us a comment. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what you're thinking about this big, wonderful world that we're living in. Hit that notification bell again so you don't miss out on any additional content like this. And until the next time, go out there, be good, be great, stay inquisitive, stay educating yourself, make proper decisions, and just take care of yourself.
And watch those African Prince emails.
Yeah, watch out for Nigerian princes.
Don't get scammed, guys. Don't get scammed.
All right, folks. That's all we got.